Hey guys, what's going on? Absolutely Beast here, bringing you guys some gameplay today on Forza 6. So these three races are on Forza 6. The Forza Motorsport demo, Forza Motorsport 7 demo has not launched yet. It will launch on September 19th, which is next week. And until then, any video you see from me is going to be Forza 6 gameplay, maybe even Forza 5, depending on how I feel. I'm going to start today's video with a correction. Well, actually, first of all, again, thank you for the support. The video yesterday had some good positive feedback, so anyway, just wanted to thank you guys for that. If you're here watching this one again, so this is a correction, and I'm actually ashamed to say that I have made a big mistake, a very large mistake, and not only did I read it wrong multiple times, but I also received some information from my good friend slash Forza Motorsport 7 slash all gaming news slash Netflix news insider, someone who seems to know everything before I do, even though I check repeatedly, messaged me even about this and said this to me, and I just thought, yeah, I mean, I get it, I know what the GTR is. So the car that's going to be in the demo, as listed on the Forza Motorsport website, is not the Nissan GTR that we are all familiar with, and it is not the one that I drove yesterday, which I actually drove that just to sort of, give a representation, and it is also not the one that was in the E3 demo, and so I have to apologize for that. I'm very sorry. As I've said multiple times before, I try my best to be very thorough and very accurate with my reporting of stuff, especially something as big as this. And for me to just, overlook it because I was just being complacent, I just thought, well, I've already read all the news there is to read, and to see that I overlooked this is kind of, it's humbling, and it makes me feel bad, because I put up a video yesterday and was talking about it, and I even talked about it in my demo, demo announcement, whatever video, even said the same thing, and I'm sorry, guys, I'm sorry. I did not read close enough, and I also didn't listen to the person that told me. I thought, why are you saying that? So, the car that's going to be in here is not the GTR, we're used to. It's the GTR LM, which is the GTR Le Mans edition, which is the car that I'm driving right now. So, this is a car built by Nissan's motorsport division, NISMO. This was a car that was developed, it's kind of dreamed up and developed in like around 2014. And they had intended to enter two of these cars in the 2015 FIA World Endurance Championship, and then they were going to do a third car in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, they're based out of Indiana. They tested the car all over the United States. They tested it in Arizona. Nissan has a testing ground there, and then they ended up doing later testing at the Circuit of the Americas, which is in Austin, Texas, and they had hoped to announce it or launch it in Europe. So, and by the way, this is on the Nürburgring GP circuit, which is where we'll be able to race this car. So they put in a Super Bowl commercial, and they announced a couple of famous drivers. A former Le Mans winner, Marc Genet, was going to drive the car, and a couple other guys. One of the guys from he came over from Audi at that time. One of the guys who won the LMP2 category in 2014, and they ended up scrapping the program. But the very unique thing about this car, it's the same twin-turbo V6 type architecture that we're used to, but instead of being a mid-rear engine, it's a mid-front engine, and it's actually front-wheel drive. So I remember watching a video on this on Jay Leno's Garage months back, 8 months back, and thinking, wow, that's really unique. So I'll actually link that video in the description. It gives a pretty in-depth analysis of the car and actually shows some really cool features of the car, like, they just had wanted to try something different. They didn't want to be an Audi prototype copier, and so they announced something a little bit different, because of the front-wheel drive car and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, that's why I just try to get past the AI as quick as I can, even if that means sometimes bumping them, because look, I mean, the guy just, basically wrecked me at the end of the race. So, but anyway, they said that this allowed them to tackle some different challenges at Le Mans that they weren't able to tackle with another car, mainly that being putting the engine in the front allows all the radiators and stuff to be put in the front, so basically allowed them to have these two really long, just basically tunnels underneath the car that were basically just open air, and it allowed them to change the weight distribution. And most cars are staggered toward the rear, so like the rear tires will be like 325s and the front tires will be like 275s or something like that, width wise. But this car actually was reversed, so they had wider tires in the front than in the rear, which I thought was pretty interesting. I think they were like 14s, which is the rim size. There were 14s in the front and 9s in the rear, which is pretty crazy. But anyway, that was a really unique car, and that was my first time driving it. It's a really fun car to drive, and that's the track we'll be getting to drive it on. And so, I'm sorry for that, guys. I'm sorry for that just, simple, just, overlook on my part, just not paying close enough attention. So I'm sorry for that. Now, the second car here is the GT2 RS. Now, this is a car that's been made by Porsche in the past. Multiple different years, but not consistently. And this was the last time they made this car, which was in 2012. So before I go any further, I don't know if this car is upgraded or not, the way I'm driving it right here. I purchased it a few months ago when they first announced that was the cover car, and I was surprised to see it in here, so I bought it right away. And I don't know if it's upgraded or not, but it really sucks. I mean, the turn in and just the turn out of the corners. I mean, you'll see me getting close to pretty much every wall on the exit because the turn is just non-existent. Anyway, so this was the last year they made it. So for those of you that don't know, the 911 obviously is the Porsche. It's the flat six rear engine car, the 911 Carrera. And there's Carrera starting around 100,000, 110,000, somewhere in there, and that's just the base model Carrera. And then you go to the Carrera, you go to the Carrera S, like the Turbo S. You go to the Cabriolet Turbo, which is the I can't even talk, the convertible. Then you go to the GT2, which is a way more like race-oriented, much more aggressive styling and stuff like that. And then you go to the GT3, which is even more aggressive. And then there's the GT3 RS, which is a 4.0 liter naturally aspirated flat six. And honestly, that's one of the best sounding cars of all time, I think. I just don't think there's any rival to it, honestly. But it's much more track focused, a lot more downforce, and not, it doesn't have the real brute force power that a lot of like supercars have. And it's around 200,000. Now this car, not this particular model here, the 2018 GT2 RS, which is coming, is a ridiculous car from Porsche. Absolutely ridiculous. It is a base price starting at $293,000, which is absolutely insane. That puts it absolutely in the supercar category, or at least almost supercar category. So I'm just going to read a little bit here off the Porsche website. I'll link this description. I'll link this site in the article, I'll link this article and this site in the description, so you guys can check this out if you want. But it's basically just from Porsche's website. Just talking about aerodynamics. I'm just going to read a couple of these. So it says the design of the new 911 GT2 RS must therefore reconcile diametrically opposed requirements: top speed, which is maximum drag coefficient on the one hand, and race optimized aerodynamics, which is maximum downforce on the other. No easy task. Our engineers love reaching new heights, especially when things get tricky. So they talk about like the powerful air intakes, aerodynamically shaped front end, to ensure optimum cooling. For those of you that don't know, the reason Porsches have looked very similar for a long period of time is because that's actually one of the most aerodynamic forms available. It's basically the shape of like a teardrop or a raindrop. So if you think of a raindrop falling through the air, the wind resistance is going to build up at the front and form, sort of like a, parenthesis, like a semicircle, and then it's going to taper off to the back toward a point. And so, anyway, that's kind of teardrop type shape of the Porsche. That's a very aerodynamically sound design, and that's why they've been using virtually the same design for like 40 years now, 30 years maybe. So, they just talk about a lot of different things. They talk about, motorsport technology is also present in the front wheel arch ventilation on the fenders, where carbon slats provide efficient ventilation. It reduces the excess pressure that's produced by the rotating wheels, also creating more downforce. And louvers, they resemble. It says they resemble the gills of a shark, which I actually think they do. There's also some cool air intakes. We're talking about distinguishing features: extremely large side air intakes. The back is really wide. So they based the GT2 RS on the extra wide body of the 911 Turbo, which is actually several inches wider than just the standard 911. It says its full contours instantly noticeable at the rear, which absolutely they are. Talk about the two ram air scoops on the trunk, ram air collectors, carbon, carbon fiber air intakes. So they also talk about just a few other things. It's 690 horsepower at 7,000 RPM, about 550 foot-pounds of torque. And they also talk about 0 to 60, 2.7 seconds, ridiculous. Top speed of 210 miles an hour. So this is the most powerful 911 Porsche they've ever made, production-wise. A couple of other quick interesting facts about it. The roof is made of magnesium, which is a much lighter metal that allows them to keep the center of gravity lower in the car. which gives better handling. The front lid, the front and rear wings, and the boot lid or the trunk lid are all made of carbon fiber, and they use lightweight polyurethane in the front and rear. They use polycarbonates on the windows instead of actual glass, and the exhaust is all titanium, which is much lighter. And they say the car weighs about 1,470 kilograms, which I believe is right around 3,000 pounds. There's also a YSOC pack, which is like a performance type pack. Reduces another 30 kilograms of weight, additional carbon fiber and titanium parts, including the roof, carbon fiber anti-roll bars, coupling rods on both axles are made out of carbon fiber, and also a set of magnesium wheels, which, wheels would be considered unsprung weight, meaning the weight that's in the wheels is not actually sprung by the suspension. Therefore, it affects the handling of the car much more dramatically than it would if it was lighter up on the top of the car. But either way, have a lot of that stuff. And like I said, the base price starts at $293,000, which is absolutely ridiculous. But this car made some huge waves being announced at E3, and there was this weird thing where like Porsche didn't quite confirm that it was announced, even though we had all seen it at E3. They were just answering really weirdly to questions about it, and they were just kind of pretending like it didn't really happen. Very strange, but this car made a lot of waves, and perfect cover car. Perfect cover car. It's going to be ridiculous. And it does ditch the all-wheel drive system of the other 911 turbos for just a rear-wheel drive, which sheds a bunch of weight. Also makes it much more of like a Widowmaker type car, especially with the engine at the rear and only rear drive and that much power. Probably going to be a real animal to handle. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be epic. And they also use the PDK transmission, which is Porsche's dual clutch transmission. And they said they had to do that in order to be able to tolerate the amount of power that they were putting down. So anyway, that's pretty sick. And then finally, we're going to get to the Mercedes-Benz Tankpool Racing number 24 truck, which is, I shouldn't say number 24. I'm not 100% sure that that's the one it is, but it is the Mercedes Tankpool truck, which is what I'm driving right now. I am a terrible driver at this thing. And honestly, it's it's weird. The one that I've seen them drive in Forza 7 demo looks really epic, so I can't wait for that one. But this one here that I'm driving is really... oops, I'm so sorry. I tried to itch my head and I hit the mic. It seems very... I mean, look at this view right here. Can't see anything. Even go to the far chase cam, still can't see jack. So I had to run in cockpit only, and I'm not very good at that. So the only things I were able to find on this was on the Call of Duty wiki page, because I couldn't really find much information about it. So, first of all, this truck has a 12.8 liter, yes, I said 12.8 liter turbocharged inline six, which is absolutely ludicrous. I can't even believe that. 12.8 liters. That's triple the size of what would be considered a big engine in a car. I can't even believe that. 1,080 horsepower, which is pretty powerful. I mean, I'm gonna say in this day and age, it's a little jaded, but I mean, 1,000 horsepower is not it's not an extreme amount. I mean, it is a lot of horsepower, but 3,685 foot-pounds of torque. For those of you in Newton meters, that's 5,000 Newton meters of torque. Oh, whoa! You can tow a house with this thing, bruh. It's ridiculous. I mean, I guess it makes sense, though, because it does weigh 12,000 pounds. That's 5,500 kilograms, which is really, really, really heavy. I mean, that's, 6 times what a race car weighs, which, I mean, that's just significant. 10-speed transmission, you'll see me doing that in here. You actually see when I shift, I'm actually already in the red line, which is just interesting. But, these are trucks that they've been racing for a little while, and for a few years. I think since the early 2000s. And it's epic. I mean, it's just something really different, and I personally can't wait. But one of the things to notice here is how sterile this cockpit is. Like, you see that net on my left, the driver's net, nothing's moving, nothing. I mean, nothing's just. I mean, the camera shakes, but it's just very like sterile, very just like very fake looking in my opinion. And I just can't wait to be driving in someone. I mean, I've seen the other footage. If you guys go and watch the other footage from the demo, there's plenty of footage out there from like E3 and stuff. The truck shakes violently, uncontrollably, and there's just so much going on. It just looks so much more realistic. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Again, thank you for the support. I really appreciate that. It's getting so close, guys. Make sure you check back with me on the 19th when the demo comes out. I'm not sure if it'll be like a late midnight release demo or earlier in the day, so I may be timing wise, but I'm certainly putting stuff up that first day. So make sure you guys check back for that. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Have a good day. One take. Oh yeah.